Battle through the heavens, Grand World. Chapter 56. Preparations for concocting the pill. Assimilate. As soon as Yi Tianqian said those words, Xiaoyan suddenly felt as if the air had frozen. Immediately, his eyes flashed with a thoughtful look. These two words did not seem to be difficult to understand. After Yi Tianqian said those two words, he did not say anything. He quietly looked at Xiaoyan, who was deep in thought. At the same time, he calmed down the shock in his heart. When he thought of this for the first time, he was also shocked. However, the more he thought about it, the more reasonable it made. In the end, he still accepted the idea with shock. Elder Yi, assimilate. Could it be that this kid's soul and prestige power spell are about to become one? After thinking for a moment, Xiaoyan finally lifted his head and spoke uncertainly. He saw Yi Tianqian nod his head. What was going on? This tiny soul of his had actually assimilated with the prestige power spell that even Yi Tianqian couldn't understand. This wasn't supposed to be a joke. The so-called assimilation meant that the two of them would gradually merge into one. The most important characteristic of assimilation was the sharing of power and damage. In other words, Xiaoyan's soul would have the ability of the prestige power spell in the future, and his mid-true monarch stage soul might be able to reach the late true monarch stage. In fact, the stronger the soul aura was, the better it would be for suppressing the medicine pill's fury and controlling the flames. If it was just this point alone, Xiaoyan would be overjoyed. However, there was another characteristic of assimilation. It was also the reason why Xiaoyan's expression changed drastically. That was to share the damage. Currently, the prestige power spell would never participate in any earth-shattering war with Xiaoyan. Therefore, there was no harm to it, but every time it encountered an extremely powerful ki, it would break free from Xiaoyan's control. It absorbed that ki crazily. The azure ancient profound bird from before. In the fire dragon space after that, the violent ki almost caused Xiaoyan's mind to collapse. If his body couldn't withstand the damage, he would have to let his fragile soul bear it in the future. Thinking of this, Xiaoyan had the urge to curse. Wasn't this forcing him to die? Seeing the drastic change in Xiaoyan's expression, Yi Tianqian could only sigh helplessly. The assimilation of soul force and prestige power spell had brought tremendous benefits, but there were also many disadvantages. Xiaoyan's strength was too low, and he couldn't even control the prestige power spell. In the future, this little guy's soul would suffer. Yi Tianqian patted Xiaoyan's shoulder and said with a smile, "Since such a thing has already happened, no matter how furious you are, it won't change anything. At least for now, the enhancement of your soul will bring you a lot of benefits." Xiaoyan smiled bitterly and nodded his head solemnly. Although that was the case, Xiaoyan still felt a headache when he thought of the pain that his soul would suffer in the future. Your soul is at the peak of intermediate true monarch stage now, but according to my observation, even the weaker late true monarch stage souls aren't as strong as yours. No matter what, your foundation of early true monarch stage is pretty good. After calming down, Xiaoyan let out an excited breath. With a thought, he looked at Yi Tianqian and asked, "Elder Yi, how do you divide the soul power?" The soul is a very vague thing, and there is no clear definitive characteristic. If you divide it according to the medicine pill you can refine, it will be divided into 5 levels. The lowest level is the true monarch stage, and the medicine pills that can be refined below the 4th grade are refined. Above it was an alien realm. Only those who had the strength of an alien realm soul could be considered a true alchemist. At this moment, he could probably concoct a tier 6 medicine pill, and above the alien realm was an illusionary realm. A soul at that level had already reached a mystical realm. If you can advance in the future, I can feel it. The soul of an illusion realm is enough to refine a tier 8 medicine pill. Above the illusion realm is an ancient stage. The soul will return to the ancient era and experience the desolate and boundless feeling. The soul will be reborn. Once you reach this level, just like me, your soul will be able to survive for 10,000 years after death. With a faint smile, Yi Tianqian said with some emotion. Gulp. Xiaoyan couldn't help but twitch his throat. If this ancient stage soul was so powerful, then wouldn't the soul of the last realm be heaven-defying? The soul of the last realm is the highest realm that all alchemists dream of. It is almost a legendary realm, the soul of a saint. According to ancient records, there were once alchemists who had reached this realm. A soul alone was enough to instantly kill some of the weaker supreme saints. Those Tier 9 ancient stages that required several years to be refined by ancient stage soul alchemists. In their eyes, it is just a trivial matter. Xiao Yan couldn't help but roll his eyes. A soul at this level was too abnormal. To be able to instantly kill a supreme saint with a single thought, someone who could reach this level was definitely an absolute expert who stood at the peak of the great world. This kind of thing is still too far away for you. With your current soul strength, you should be able to refine some low tier 2 medicine pills. Since the soul transformation is successful, you must also master alchemy. Yi Tianqian looked at the soul that was being suppressed in the sky and said with a faint smile. Xiao Yan nodded his head obediently. A layer of wild joy immediately surged into his eyes. He had already experienced the benefits of being an alchemist in Fighting Key Continent a long time ago. No one could compare with him in terms of appeal and skill in alchemy. Although he didn't dare to say that he was reckless, at least he wouldn't appear weak when facing some people or objects. His right hand stretched out slowly, and the suction force instantly increased explosively. It absorbed the medicinal ingredients of the 30 batches of returning clarity pill in the distance before him. Yi Tianqian did not even look at them before throwing all of them to Xiao Yan. You should familiarize yourself with your soul these few days and stabilize your realm. 10 days later, it will be time to start concocting the pill. After storing all 30 sets of medicinal ingredients into the storage ring, Xiao Yan once again recovered his senses. By the time he recovered, he was already somewhere in the large forest. Shaking his head helplessly, Xiao Yan looked around. Ever since his soul had transformed into the soul of the great world, he could faintly feel that he had completely merged with this world. The speed at which he absorbed the Origin Monarch Key had also increased tremendously. He was now able to control the Origin Monarch Key in his body with greater ease. The soul surged out from between his brows and instantly covered an area with a radius of nearly 100 miles. Any movement of the wind and grass in the area covered by the soul appeared in Xiao Yan's mind, and it was dozens of times stronger than before. A punch landed on a huge tree. Wood splinters flew everywhere. The tree trunk, which was thicker than Xiao Yan's waist, was penetrated by his fist. Xiao Yan chuckled and retracted his fist. There was not even a red mark left on it. As Xiao Yan's strength and soul increased, his physical body was also strengthened rapidly. Elder Yi, Xiao Yan will never forget your great help, Xiao Yan said with a solemn expression. A light flashed in his eyes. He gently touched the storage ring with his finger. In the deepest part of the storage ring, there was the soul origin of his ancestor, Xiao Zhan. Ancestor Xiao Zhan was one of the few people Xiao Yan respected from the bottom of his heart. Back in the Fighting Key Continent, he had promised him that one day, if he advanced into the Fighting Monarch, he would definitely find a way to revive him. Now, he was an imperial warrior who was several times stronger than the Fighting Monarch. With Elder Yi, an ancient stage soul expert, by his side, he found a way to revive his ancestor. It shouldn't be difficult. Currently, Elder Yi and ancestor Xiao Zhan had the same problem. If his ancestor could be resurrected, then, there was a possibility that Elder Yi could be resurrected as well. When he thought of this, Xiao Yan took a deep breath. His eyes, which were as calm as an ancient well, were shining brightly. His heart was also beating strongly. For the next 10 days, Xiao Yan did not waste any time. Apart from spending 6 days to completely consolidate his strength at the peak of the sovereign realm, his soul strength at the peak of the intermediate true monarch stage was gradually being familiarized with by the former. His control became more and more smooth. In the remaining time, Xiao Yan walked barefoot in this seemingly endless illusionary realm. He had also encountered some ferocious-looking people along the way. Their strength was only at the sovereign warrior level, the sovereign master level. As expected, all of them had become the souls of the dead under Xiao Yan's black ruler. Slowly, Xiao Yan seemed to have discovered something. The spirit beasts that appeared in the illusionary realm all released a trace of ki. When facing the first spirit beast, because of this sudden attack, the prestige power spell automatically absorbed the ki that filled the sky. Xiao Yan was caught off guard and felt as if his soul had suffered a heavy blow. His head buzzed. A force that felt like his head was going to explode came from the depths of his soul, causing his vision to turn black. His skin and flesh rolled as he was unable to dodge in time. A wound so deep that bone could be seen appeared on his chest. Enduring the splitting pain, Xiaoyan barely managed to dodge a few fierce attacks from behind. When the heart-wrenching pain in the depths of his soul had passed, Xiaoyan no longer dared to continue the battle. Immediately, he used the Monarch Flame's secret skill and killed the spirit beast with lightning speed. This was the first time in so many years that Xiaoyan felt such intense pain in his soul. The pain that penetrated deep into his soul made him feel a chill on his back. That feeling was worse than death. Xiaoyan rested for a long time before his soul regained some clarity. In the following battles, Xiaoyan was in a killing stance. Those who could not be killed in a short period of time would try their best not to release their ki to attack. As the number of spirit beasts killed increased, Xiaoyan had a rough understanding of these spirit beasts. According to what he knew, there were devil beasts that contained their own unique ki in their bodies. They were at least at the level of middle-rank heavenly beasts, and in addition to the extraordinary intelligence of these spirit beasts, presumably, their true bodies were the peak experts that stood at the peak of the beast race. Elder Yi might have seen them before when he was alive, but according to the appearance of those holy beasts after his death, created with an incomparably powerful soul. Apart from killing the spirit beasts, Xiaoyan also picked a lot of medicinal ingredients to refine the returning clarity pill and some other low-grade medicine pills. In the great world, he was considered a novice. Currently, he could only rely on continuously refining medicine pills to improve his alchemy standards, and these low-grade medicinal ingredients could not be lacking. 10 days slowly passed under Xiaoyan's high-intensity process. After the estimated time in his heart had arrived, Xiaoyan had already quietly stood in the forest, waiting for the change in the scene in front of him. Soon, the space in front of him distorted. When Xiaoyan appeared once again, he was already standing on the limestone square. His eyes had just gathered when he was attracted by a dark red object that was as tall as a person in the middle of the square. It was a medicine cauldron. The medicine cauldron was dark red in color. There were a few lifelike fire dragons carved on the cauldron walls. The dragon scales on the fire dragons seemed to flash with a dim light. Under the reflection of the sunlight, the dark red dragon eyes. It was as if there were clusters of flames burning gently. The fire dragons seemed to be moving in a certain direction. The arrangement was very reasonable. The other parts of the medicine cauldron. There was a faint trace left behind by the erosion of time, but it added some vicissitudes and ancientness to it. The medicine cauldron was filled with a majestic aura. When Xiaoyan saw this medicine cauldron for the first time, it was as if an ancient ferocious beast that had been hibernating for tens of thousands of years had appeared in his mind. An ancient aura that caused one's scalp to go numb swept over. However, Xiaoyan, who had the prestige power spell, naturally wouldn't be affected at all. Apart from the heart-wrenching pain that came from his soul, Xiaoyan's facial expression didn't change at all when faced with this ancient ferocious ki. A breath of cold air was exhaled from the root of his teeth. Xiaoyan shook his slightly dizzy head and helplessly looked at his chest. This old man was too lively. He couldn't wait to absorb the ki that came into contact with him. Sighing, Xiaoyan's gaze once again turned towards the dark red medicine cauldron. At this moment, the space beside the medicine cauldron distorted, and then a figure stepped into the air. "How is it, little guy? With your eyesight, what do you think of this cauldron?" Before he finished his words, Yi Tianchen was already standing beside the medicine cauldron, looking at Xiaoyan with a smile on his face. His eyes swept across the cauldron once more, and he couldn't help but praise it in his heart. Xiaoyan immediately said respectfully, "Good cauldron. It is definitely the best medicine cauldron that this kid has ever seen." Hearing these words, Yi Tianchen also smiled complacently. At that time, he knew that the medicine cauldrons in the lower realms could not be compared to the medicine cauldrons in the great world. But every time he heard someone praise this Nine Dragons Flame Cauldron, he would feel a wave of pride that came from the bottom of his heart. Because this medicine cauldron was the same as the Thousand Leaves ancient monarch. Fire and the little dragon. It was the pride of his life. Chapter end.